世间所有的相遇，都是久别重逢。
清风明月如怀抱。
We're living in the most exciting times, right? Probably in the 500 years, it's the most exciting time, right? So many things going on. I cannot really get to sleep if I don't review a bit, with you. We try to move on to the MaicroDoctor line of product design, right? But it's so many things happening, right? I had spent some time to wrap up a bit, right? So business ontology really start from the Buddhism, so the monas, right? Monash, right? That is at individual level. And another way look at it is more of it's not scientifically you cut the body or you take some surgery or X-ray or CT or whatever, right? Another way is meditation, right? The meditation state, deeply meditated state, right? You could reflect a lot. I mean, I personally do it, right? So one of the interesting journal is by a practitioner, right? How much is true is hard to prove, right? Currently, the current scientific method is probably not sufficient. It could be totally bullshit. You never know, right? I mean, the best way is you do it, you practice it, right? Or you wait till it can be, proof or record it using whatever scientific means, like maybe AI and robotics could help you on that, right? Like the brain, for example, right? In that sense, the function is not merely a pump, right, or blood, right? There are part of overall consciousness of that person, right? That what the brain is, right? You put in a way that is more like a processor in a current computing way, right? It the Neuralink, right, to insert a chip into the brain. Yeah, if that works, it proves you could collect some data, an internal biological symbiotically with silicon, that'd be great, right? But I guess we need a bit more scientific study before we jump on board and deeply. But if you don't try, you don't know whether you're wrong, right, or not. So brain has, very generically speaking, a big brain, a small brain. Small brain is more balancing part, right? The big brain more thinking, logical, right? So of course there are many regions and parts and components, right? And the way to divide your brain, right? The gray layer, the white layer, whatever that is, matter. So the neurons, obviously, how many billions of, those are theory, right? Neurology, right? The neuroscience is a very vibrant, active medical research area right now. So, I don't know if it makes better. Okay, so Yeah, we could talk more, but you know, you need a bit of cleaning, right? Some caching, right? It's like your router, right? At home in the basement somewhere. If you don't periodically shut it down and restart it, your computer, right? It's kind of cluttering a lot of stuff, right? You know, some caches need to be recollected, garbage recollected, you know. It's hard to make sense of it, right? Heart, on the other side, it is really managing your desire, right? Dictates the romantic attraction, you know, some of the emotional preference, you know. In a failure state where you have toxic obsessions, you know, narcissist, right, whatever it is, right, like Hitler or whoever, right, kind of sick state, right? It's not brain is wrong. It's not anything else. This is the heart. You know, that's one kind of theory. When I say it, it's probably like nonsense, right? Like your sexual dysfunction also deeply linked with your heart, right? The anxiety level, right? The deep down, the traits, the characters, right? That's the person, right, who defines you is already also there, right? That's when we design the product called macro heart. That's what we mean, right? It really determines what human is, macro minus. That's what it is. But on the business level, that's what the heart ontology is, right? It's not the one that you know popularly you know, okay? It's more defining for new business opportunities, right? We're not trying to revolutionize the existing, you know, Salesforce like ERPs or SaaS, you know, SAP sort of, or mainframe, right? I think IBM stocks dropped because somebody, Anthropic or whoever, claimed they could redo that host system, you know, re-engineer that, discover the process. Maybe true, maybe not, but it tells me that IBM is not really doing well. We've done a presentation there. They have BAI and they have their strategy, local run. Watson, they have a lot of strong research, you know. But overall, they're not really catching up since the cloud era, right? Or probably since the, after the sort of web spheres and big servers, 570 or something. Since then, they kind of drifted away into a sweatshop, right? They so favorite in deploy a consultant, which I don't know what quality they are now. But in any case, I've been, you know. The stocks, the market, people's perception, you know, maybe not objectively true, but tells us something, right? Sorry, I need to close my eyes. Really tired today. Yeah, we examine another part, right? So altogether, we try to speed up a little bit. There are 7, right? The alertness, the immunity, the waste, the toxic, the fluid, repair, and air. There are a lot of functions in the body. It's a team, right? It's not just you can cut apart, right? When I designed the meridian system, right? Like think if you're given the opportunity to redesign what humans are, right? It's quite exciting, but also a lot of responsibility, right? Which theory do you take? Like you're building the robots, you have the body, you put a processor, chips, you give it some, you know, logic processing, some memory, and you give a motor and actuator, right? Give some joints. You made human. Human is not made like that, right? It's grown out of 1 or 2 cells, right? You know, we all know that, right? I mean, if you're not human, you probably don't know, but we humans know that, right? But when I say the macro minors, right? The minors is one of the 7, one of the 8 layers of consciousness, right? That defines the person, right? In the China way, you know, that's how they look at it, right? 三魂七魄, 7 souls, you know. 7 other operations, right? some departments, security and defense, some watchdogs, defenders, right? Like, they're very alert to danger. So automatically, it's not through nerve system, not through the brain. They're just there, right? That's part of the consciousness. When I say information is a fundamental part of the universe, that's what I mean, right? Not everything is built like you compute about it, right? Then you produce intelligence. Probably not, right? Seems to me that the vibration part of the energy is not based on computation. Maybe somebody claim, quantum computing, whatever that is, and it's an overused term. When they don't know anything, they just, this is quantum, right? Quantum physics. What the hell does it mean? I don't. It's kind of weird. People just claim they know quantum physics. But in any case, the malfunction part of this, you could be very strong, right? The watchdog too alerted, like you agitated, right? So you're going to waken up the slight sound. People like that, right? They cannot really sleep well, and in public they're so alert, right? Overly hygiene, it's not. I don't know how to say that mathematically, but the cure is not taking a pill or you do a surgery, take more therapy. No. Think about it. The modern science, especially modern medicine, it's only a couple hundred years maximum, right? It's you don't have to bet all the hopes into that one school of thoughts, right? Although they're very elaborate, very developed, fantastic, but again, it may not be the whole thing, right? When we design the macro heart and macro brain, that's what we based on something that, will have to allow us to be sure that we don't know everything we need to know, right? We might have to take a leap of faith at some point, right? We might have to go beyond what the science is telling us today. The science definition, people keep changing it, right? It tells us something, right? The spirit of science is that you prove, don't fully trust what you trust today, right? If you have a way to prove that it is wrong, you can proceed. You can switch to the new paradigm, or whatever that new method. That's what it's science, right? Okay, so on the other side, that's what we're talking about, the internal operating system, right? On the other side is the defender, right? The immune system, if you will, in a modern medical, right? The malfunction frequently called low resilience, right? It's not just, your immune system is weak or you need more protein, right? It may not be like that. In this school of thought, in this theory, it is not. The action is to avoid heavy, spicy food, to conserve energy for defense, right? It's more like, not. There are other department, waste management I mentioned, Fushi and Feidu, right? The filter and the janitor, right? They really, just digest and get rid of some of the internal detoxification, right? Probably I shouldn't talk about this. It's hard to explain, right? 三魂七魄. So in the Chinese medicine, 三魂 is more on the yang side, like sunshine side, day, right? The operation team is 七魄, meaning like the yin, the hardware part, right? If you think about it, the san yang, 三魂 is more like a software. I think of build a robotics, right? 三魂 is more like the brain and heart and everything that you can perceive. But 七魄, you don't actually know they exist, but they do, right? maintenance, security, waste management. They remain in biological vessel, right? They're inside it, right? Sometimes they can leave you and be a little more independent. Like you can install some large language model into the robots, right? But again, there are some chips company, like one of those in Canada, they try to bake the whole LLM, the smaller one obviously, into the chips and insert into the robotics. It's also doing installable, right? Again, this can be taken out as well, right? So that regulates your strategy, intellect, emotion, your characteristics. You can leave the body, sometime. When you die, for example, it goes. It doesn't just die with the body, right? That's the key difference, right? So this is kind of anatomy, if you will. It's very much aligned with astronomy, right? It's kind of, sounds like nonsense, right? But many practitioners claim they have seen it, right? Well, it has been in practice for 1,000 years, not just from today, right? But again, you don't have to trust it. You don't have to believe it or trust me, right? Just one way to look at things, right? Anatomy is that you don't have to cut a dead body or cut, like the Japanese Army 731, so anti-human, right? To cut a live person, right? That's obviously evil, right? Really anti-human, right? But this is more like, meditation kind of thing, right? If you go to some part of the China or India, probably still in practice, right? Maybe different theory, but, in that territory, if you will, right? And that's what it is, right? And different ways of looking at probably the same thing, right? And let's rapid diagnosis checklist, right? If you brain fog and slow reaction, okay, and here's the fix, right? You need to take some walk, right? And insomnia, cannot sleep well, to reduce the anxiety, right? If you have bad breath, this is fatal, right? Cut spicy food. It's very simplified, right? Weakness, dull eyes, and tag guang, right? Sleep 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., right? It's advice, right? I try to do it, but sometimes I cannot, right? Any case, this, one way to look at it, right? Treat your body like a team, not a medicine, right? So, any case, this is a whole book, right? Written as a journal or a practitioner, right? And obviously the third eye, data part, not a ghost theory, all that kind of stuff, right? Whatever that is, gland, I don't want to get too much into a weekend story. It's no meaning to me, right? Essentially, you want to understand when I mentioned microminers, private operating systems, right? POS versus SOP, right? That's what I mean. You need a deeper think, a careful design, right? What is your business ontology? How do you really build it? And what is your domain specific large language model or multimodal model, right? Your data model, your process model, right? You have to carefully think through, especially in the new business, like, real world asset tokenization, right? A new payment, and that's take some notice, if you will, right? Totally up to you, okay? Well, we're going to change quickly, not dwell on this forever. Yesterday you look at the top 100 robotics, right? Some of them are designing hand, right? $100,000 versus $300, kind of different hand. Huawei, they design some e-scan, right? Some dexterity, right? Harmonic resources, right? Tactiles, visions, and different kind of AIs, right? So There's some other part we need to take the localized compute. Right? I use RTX 590. Pretty good, right? But larger scale, you need to use a more powerful chip or cluster, right? Or multiple of them added together, right? But also you need to make sure the way you put it on premise is obviously for some regulatory concerns. PIP done compliance aware kind of stuff, right? You need, in our design, part of the data fabric, absolutely required. You cannot let critical data leave your premise, right? You cannot pass in the cloud. No, not in a million chance, right? So we talked about it, right? The operating system part, right? Yeah, we're gonna dive more, right? So this is kind of what we introduced, what is the ritual, right? And how we're gonna achieve it, the trust, the myth, whatever that is, and this is where we integrate using NVIDIA, Unitree, Fourier, right? Yeah, we talked about all of this. We're gonna dive deep, don't worry about that. It's gonna be revisiting quite frequently. We try to build a sovereign AI or sovereign robotics, if you will, right? Security, regulatory, right? Make sure it aligns with our business benefit, produce result, rather than just for a technology when you invest a lot of money, right? Yeah. So our domains, it's law, industrialization, finance, transport, workforce, risk, not try to cover too much. We have to explain slowly, right? Steadily, right? Have some sort of roadmap, but also practical, right? I think we look at this, right? So the red chamber is one of the it's like a raw material. We're going to borrow some stories from there, right? And this is something else, right? The compliance and AML, treasury management, right? You name it, risk. And this is yet another, right? It's more like build a local run AI, a strong foundation that gives you ability to expand if you need, right? That takes some time, but again, the enterprise agentic AI is not truly mature today, right? It takes a bit of time. What is really functioning is what I'm doing right now, the multimodal AI kind of voice, video, text, image, right? Those are pretty good. But in terms of enterprise agentic AI or robotics, takes some time, right? Be patient. This is where we try to have an upper hand, right? So sovereign AI risk mitigation, we talked about it. DeepSeek, Queen, ByteDance, right? On one side is brand. Probably you should not get into, right? Because a lot of regulation go against that, right? Mistral, Llama, consider that, but I'll see how they sustain, right? So the workforce is the real market, not IT. Okay, don't just lock yourself into that thinking. The anatomy of the sovereign robotics. That's what I try to build, right? If you will, Havantika, deep, whatever that is, right? The body is Unitree, the best of breed strategy. That's what we are doing, right? The brain, NVIDIA, Jetson, Zhenzhen Huang, right? They have Groot 0. Right? The science part, you have the Sony's eye, 3D vision, and cellular skins, tactile, and the general brains model, deep charcoal. The hands, you have shadow robots, sanctuary, that's Canadian, I believe, right? AI, dexterity, right? It's a lot of choice, if you will, right? But look at it, right? It's a huge market, right? But little. You have to catch up. You cannot miss it, right? So this is what I mean, right? You have to build up something that practical, right? People will need it, right? And that's what we mean by the non-palace sort of business ontology, right? Yeah. So storytelling as business engagement, right? The problem is that it's highly complex. You have to engage people, right? That's what AI is good for right now. They use it, right? So the story behind it, right? So really using that, it itself is a business, right? It's a product, right? So our advantage is it's just 95 cheaper, right? We're not doing like, try to write a novel or something, but for business use, commercial, right? Engaging, right? And very simply, right? So we're gonna quickly get it started, right? Yeah, let's quickly review a bit, then we can close it, right? So the brain, there are choices, right? In China, the body, right? The global manufacturing scale, 40% of the robotic market is in China, right? The primary goal is application-driven, sort of hardware and a rapid scenario, a landing, right? Unitary, edgeable, UV attack, the manufacturing, right? And the United States core advantage, obviously, the very still leading, see that the dominant LLM reasoning, right? And the foundation AI architecture. We use this for technology, leadership and embodied AI research, and NVIDIA, Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, they're pretty good, right? Use it. Simplistically speaking, right? Use it. So don't hesitate. You don't have to be aligning with anybody's political agenda or this. It's okay. Everybody entitled to an opinion, right? On the other side, we have to prepare to the enterprise AI and enterprise robotics, right? While we're doing what we do, right? It's more like embrace it as we can, whatever the maturity right now. Okay, don't wait. That's what I emphasize, right? Use what you have, okay? Creatively, right? So, doesn't matter it's theater, doesn't matter it's banking, doesn't matter it's medicine, use it, right? Another way of how we integrate AI and sovereign robotics into the redefining of human, right? Okay, this is another way, modern medicine and ancient wisdom, right? Huawei Cloud, right? That's how they build it, right? If you look at the brand, a lot of stuff is from quite ancient text. Okay, they have the 384 interconnection. Right? Why is it 384? Right? Obviously, mathematically it's there. Why mathematically there? 易经. Okay, I'm also using the same, right? There's no IP. You can use it as well if you understand it, right? But essentially, you look at it, CPU core, you have data core, you have matrix processor, neural nodes, and AI accelerator. Okay. Then think of the body. This is how the body is built, right? Think about it, right? It's about resilience, right? It's very resilient, right? And holistic, and also solvent, right? Solvent is built physically, not just imagined or claimed, right? Okay. One of the other ways, very reductionist, right? You cut into parts, like you heard of the scientist, they cut you because they heard or they kind of sensed humans that internally have some sort of a clock, knows what time is it right now. Biologically, right? Oh, there must be a clock inside the body. They cut the whole body to find the biological clock. It's silly, isn't it? Right? It's part of the time and space is where people live. You're made by the time and space, those energy and matters, right? Each and every atom will have the clock in it. Right? It didn't really reduce to a little clock inside your heart somewhere. That's kind of silly, right? But that's scientists, right? One school of thinking, very reductionist, right? They try to focus on the macroscopic cells, right? Structural chain, the container, very Newtonian kind of. The other side is more holistic, right? Look at the balancing, right? Part of the ecosystem, right? But again, it's hard to grasp unless you are deep into it. I mentioned some part of the meditation, right? If you do that, you kind of self-evidently, you could practice that, right? See internals, right? How much is true? Don't trust me, don't believe. Find it out yourself, right? When you have an opportunity to redesign the humans, for example, right? You have to be very careful. Right? You have to really research deeply and not just take one school of thought as if they are. You put a scientific label, then that's equals true. No, not really, because science is up to redefinition as well, right? The crisis of inheritance, right? Yeah, it's kind of, what is this one? The framework, the postmodern view, right? What is this? The hero's imbalance, pathology, and the medicine is the logic of sages. Okay, Sharma kind of roots, sage era and modern era. Yeah, drug therapy. There's different ways, right? That's why we try to define the macro doctor who have to take a little fun, right? It's like you do music, right? Don't just do it as if it's a huge business, right? I have to make every smile into a penny, right? I must engineer all those applause, right? The stage has to be perfect. I have to dance to the classic music sheet. No, where's the fun, right? You have to play. It's like a game, right? Be part of the ransom, right? That's how you embrace AI and robotics, right? Don't take it so seriously, like you're gonna revolutionize the whole universe, or if you embrace AI, you're a bad guy. You're gonna do something really bad, destroy the human on Earth. Probably not, right? Probably not that serious, right? Yeah, you think qi, whatever the vital energy again is a borrowed term, right? That's like a tokenization of whatever that is, right? Competition. Yeah, just relax, think, right? Play with it, right? Embrace it, have fun, okay? That's how you do it. That's how you work. Okay, unicorn startup threshold, right? That's how much it's going to cost you now, right? It should be way down, right? And I think we'll go that way. The architecture, Huawei Cloud, right? They have Model Earth. Same thing with my MaicroStudio. But they are larger, right? Well, 30 years later, they're not larger than me. They almost jump out the window because it's so terribly small and squeezed, right? Out of business. Okay, so 3 lines of defense. Okay, sovereignty, neutrality, the black soil strategy. Okay, all kind of this, right? We're gonna dive deeper later on when we're. This is yet another way, my way of looking at things, right? Just having fun, right? You never know what is. I put it macro heart, macro brain, right? Lift wall, right? Ontology, the bar, right? You have to have fun, right? Look at it, right? Bottled intelligence, right? In any case, we're going to see how it works out in the marketplace, right? Yeah, this is something we need to talk a bit more, right? So more of my approach. Make it simple, intuitive, yet very easy to implement. Very measurable result weekly or even daily, right? So very simplified. Let's say that you have a roadmap for sure, but you have to make it practical, attainable, right? Put into project, right? Don't just dream about it, right? Talk about it, do it, right? Do it every day with very tangible result, right? The data, right? The local run is private by design, okay? My recommendation, solving robotics and solving AI, right? The layers, agentic AI, as you see, right? 6 is our really specialty, but we are starting with 4, 5, 6, right? We start by building the microbrain, microheart, the business-specific ontology, the private operating system, if you will, local machine, right? And then we try to build the agentic AI, starting with medicals, banking, hospitality, right? Again, robotics, which we're already very deep in, but we need more resource, right? This is where studio storytelling part of the business, right? You look at it, right? So yeah, the simulation, right? You don't have to make all those mistakes in the real world, right? You can simulate it. That's one of the power that AI gave you, right? Why don't you capitalize on it, right? Make it a business. Right? So in any case, this is what I use. You see on my lab, it's already part of it, right? Okay, so yeah, that's what I propose, what I'm building. It's already in 5 years, right? So Zone C, whatever, Android moment, aha moment, whatever you call it. Some breakthrough, some killer applications should maybe we are come out to that. Right? So yeah. I like some of the visuals. AI made is better than we can, right? I'm experimenting the music part as well. It seems AI also very capable, like movie making. It's surprising, really. I mean, that's the best part of AI right now. Okay, probably not enterprise agentic AI. That needs a lot of logic, and the old ERP and mainframe is still quite dominant, right? The SaaS even not completely get hold in a large enterprise, right? The microservice still kind of try to take over the mainstream of the business operations and functionalities, right? It takes a bit of time. Digitization, the data, not really totally managed yet. Maybe that's why we need to focus on what AI can offer, right? Don't dream and wait, okay? Risks, right? And once you let AI, it's like a beast out of the cage, you better be careful, right? So flexibility, cognition from memorization, right? That's what the past sort of AI, if you will, taking away a lot of your critical thinking ability, right? So some says, the calculator kill the math, kills math, it is kill long division, AI kills essay to birth the editor. Oh yeah, maybe, right? But what can you do? Everybody's using it. Even the editors using it, right? Page and tutor. Yeah, tutor, remember, like the 7 days on day 1, that's what we do, right? Not like a traditional way. We're experimenting with something that practical yet have direct result, can make people who are losing their job re-enter the profession, right? Do something practical and benefit people directly, right? The debate on the theory and philosophy kind of stuff, right? We're not in politics, right? So yeah, a lot of good story we need to tell, right? The perfect storm, the Silicon Valley, right? why people are reacting this way, right? Capitalist, scam, a lot of failures as well, as you see, right? And the catalyst, the spun moment, NASA, so many things we could talk from different angle, right? But again, put into practice is not that easy, right? It's pretty tough, right? We look at robotics yesterday. Today, hopefully, we'll have some time to dive into the enterprise agentic AI. Let's see how much time we have, right? I don't have the strength to go an hour and a half, right? You know, it's a very strategically advantaged moment, right? Right now, very few people come to this side and watch, okay? So if I make some mistakes, it's not going to impact many people. But very soon, you never know which moment with thousands, right? Or millions come in, right? Then you have a heavy responsibility. You have to be very particular, right? You cannot just talk like now. You have to be a little more polished, right? Because you're facing a large crowd. For now, it's very few people. That's a huge advantage, you know. It's not my intention to, you know, attract a lot of people just likely-minded, right? For a purpose. It's a business purpose, right? Flying well, whatever that is, private risk, you know, spin-off, culturally, public, the investment, right? De-risking. Yeah, I mean, a lot of ways to look at the same thing, right? So, all right, we look at sovereign enterprise intelligence, or agentic AI, if you will, right? This we try to present to some of the board of directors in some large banks, right? Again, it's more like what is the disconnect, right? What is our kind of stack technologically? How to build it up holistically, make sure it is serve the purpose, have business result, ROI guaranteed, in a way guaranteed, right? Measure at least, and de-risk. Risks must be really calculated, right? You have to make it transparent, right? What is arbitrage there? Open source, be aware of that, right? And also, what are the sovereign data gravity? Right? That's what, you know, on the camel, right? Llama. Efficiency breakthrough, inference per cost. Different ways to look at the same thing, right? So embedded intelligence, VLA models, inference, and physical action, unitary, right? That's my operational kind of metrics, if you will, right? Make it spinning, but easy to plug in the current ecosystem, right? The best of the breed, you know, some La Robot, Foundry, LangChain, DeepSeek, Anthropic, Mistral, NVIDIA, the Huawei, depending on where you are, Databricks, AWS, Google, right? So, yeah, I mean, the critical to deliver is what is the strategic zone, right? Model compatibility and fragmentation part. You have to put it together, right? So this year, right? This is kind of current state. Right? The bank is trapped in the technological COBOL mainframe, right? RWA is some attention. The trap is fortress building versus open source with some regulatory risks, right? Those are have to be really carefully look at it, right? I would say that if 18 months is given, we could demonstrate the result. Okay, so yeah, let's dive more on that, right? So, again, it's another way to look at for it, right? We're descending to see one of the enterprise sort of a strategy, right? Where do you need to invest, right? For what purpose, right? You're going to explore new opportunities, or you just try to solve some of the data engineering process, do the must-have to, right? Regulatory kind of monitoring part. There's a lot of like treasury risk, finance part, governance, monitoring, risk. We mentioned that there's a lot of new risks as well, like regulatory compliance is one of the most, right? But don't try to, whoever bullshit it, we try to revolutionize, replace mainframe. Don't try that. AI is not going to be the best for that. You could discover some more, but how much it's going to cost you is the question, right? Do you want to make it more stable and secure and safe than the mainframe? Think again, right? Maybe, maybe not, right? The risk, geopolitical, right? Inference cost, and the foundation, layer 1, layer 2, the data retrieval, latency, right? DeepSeek OCR is a fantastic technology, right? There's a lot of post-quantum cryptography you have to consider, right? The vector database selection, it could use just a plain PostSQL, right? Pretty stable, pretty good. But there are others, right? And I tried a few, pretty good as well. Even in a positioning kind of tokenize it, right? In the embedding part, you have a lot of techniques. Right? It's not a simple thing, right? You might hear a lot of cliche, some words, right? But actually doing it is an engineering kind of process. Economics, right? NVIDIA, right? DeepSeek. You look at the total sort of TCO, total cost of ownership, right? DeepSeek is good, but it's open source. But a lot of regulatory concerns, right? You know, I think Anthropic CEO will be kind of go to the Congress, you know, some of the meetings there. But again, many more is going to mobilize, lobby the government to ban DeepSeek, right? They're already some part of it, right? For a good reason, protecting themselves, but doesn't mean what they claim is true, right? They themselves might have also used other people's data with permission, right? It is questionable, but as a part of the business, competition, you know, good or bad, you know, they're doing it. And the portfolio part, it shows the meaningful client interaction, maybe Gemini, Anthropic Cloud, right? On the low risks part, maybe Llama, open source, DeepSeek. You know, you have to be the back office, the front office, coding modernization, the client facing. You have to, you know, find the actual use case, and then build a technology stack. Okay, it's very customizable. Right? What is really critical are those the mindset, right, and this data molting part, right? That's where it's going to take some years to the workforce, right? We talked about it, right? Agentic workflow, and layer 6 we demonstrated, right? The vision, language, action part, the Google RT2. Serving robotics, NVIDIA, Cosmos, right, Unitree, right? So we need to dive deeper, right? Again, this is the sort of non-palace kind of model. When I built the MaicroStudio, right, that's what we used. A lot of technology, right? We see APIs, we see domain models, right? System controls, production, right? The vendor map, right? If you look at it, right? The AWS did bricks and layer 1, and layer 2, layer 3 will be some chips computing layer 4, you know, some models, right? Layer 5 small Microsoft Foundry, right? LangChain, Hugging Face, Unitree. There are a lot more. We need to dive deeper, right? The roadmap is pretty. Risk mitigation, Genius Act, Clarity, AML, KYC, right? The human in the loop mandate, right? The automated SAR narrative generation, right? You have to be explainable, right? Use of the explainable AI for credit underwriting to meet some of the regulatory control, right? The efficiency gains, the risk reduction, and new revenue, right? Okay, closing path to that. Build a bridge. That's what we're doing. Bridge from today to future. In the between, there could be a lot of people falling in a valley, right? In a in a gap, right? We need to build the sovereign data bricks, if you will, fabric. It's quite challenging, right? Yeah, local run is also a challenge, right? Yeah, we're gonna getting there. We're getting there, right? Here again, we're looking at security, crypto, omni-channel, ontology, orchestration, foundation, runtime, augmentation, and development, right? RWA part especially, right? The new way of doing banks, right? Doing banking. Again, zero shot, right? You're looking at the banking relies on physical branches, right? And real world assets, right? We'll have to embrace the vision, language, action model. Okay, probably Google RT2 is one we need to evaluate more, right? We'll have to allow the physical AI devices or robots to perceive and reason about the physical space, not just using guessing probabilistically, right? The technology is going to tighten the security mixed with authentication is no error, right? Zero trust, right? And we have to get a lot more deep down into how the new financial ecosystem is going to evolve, right? Is stablecoins going to stay, or is RWA going to flourish? Okay, what is the new framework for this real payment? Okay. We need to de-risk systematically, right? And if you apply AI to solve the problem you're not supposed to do, like redo the ERP or modernize the mainframe, I think that's the wrong task, right? It's not what it is for, right? Yeah, blockchain is a fantastic technology, but doesn't mean you have to embrace the DeFi or whatever, right? Decentralization, okay? Different approaches, different thinking. You have to be practical, produce results, not adding risks, right? The expansion into real-world asset, RWA, right? It's quite a bit potential. Means the linking the banking ladder to the physical economy, right? AI agents is quite good at that. In mining, energy, and logistics, right? It could feed real-time data into the financial model, right? Allows for the dynamic pricing, tokenized asset based on the actual physical health and an output, right? Like silver, right? For example, or copper, right? And then we could measure the environmental protection kind of fairness, social, right? ESG, right? How do you implement that, right? In any case, the Earth AI and Spectre AI, whatever, a lot of new startups dedicate to that, to de-risk and leverage the new financial, like stablecoins, for example, digital currency. The scale of the French AI infrastructure, like Mistral, is quite astonishing, right, as well, right? And I think HBC using it, right? Under the Genius Act, right? The stablecoin issuer and tokenized the asset platform must maintain the strict AML KYC programs with the ability to freeze or burn assets, right? And the governance platform like IBM Watson X, right? The governance and Sardin, the AI provide the necessary oversight. The system detect shadow AI, right? Monitor model drifts and data bias and enforce identity verification and behavioral biometrics, right? So even every agentic action is logged, auditable, and checked against the sanctions list in real time, ensuring that autonomous velocity does not compromise the regulatory integrity, right? So look at it, the compliance standard reporting mandate for the AI governance tools to ensure that data privacy and security control are intact, right? That's important, right? So especially 2026, you see some panic, right? But be prepared. Eventually, it will be here because that new financial ecosystem is almost a necessity. So asset liquidity is one of them, right? You have to really make it clear, the governance part, who is control what, right? Who get benefited, in a more, regulated way, right? This tells, US, NVIDIA, Anthropic, OpenAI, Microsoft, XAI still find its footing into the enterprise agentic AI domains, right? But Mistral, regulatory hedge, GDPR, some sovereign cloud, right? Microsoft deployed some part of that in Europe, and the Chinese the disruption, right? Low cost, efficient, brilliant installation. DeepSeek, Huawei, Alibaba, Queen, JLM, Minimax, ByteDance, quite a number of them, right? They're all competitive, right? If you think about it, foundational layers, right? OCR, we talked about the cryptography, right? Eventually you're going to see the neural network node, right? The VLA enable robotics to perform. That's what we're using right now, right? In a sensor arms kind of thing, right? It's again another depiction of the intricate NAM palettes. It's almost a military grade, right? So any case, so we need to make sure that the path forward is not merely about adopting AI, but architecting an institution that thinks by fusing the stability of the mainframe with the agility of the agent and the security of the sovereign cloud with the efficiency of open models. And we build a bank ready for the 2030 or beyond, right? Sovereign, velocity, and with integrity, zero trust, right? Yeah, that's where we are going. So that becomes imperative in agentic AI, right? Enterprise agentic, especially in the financial part, right? Which is the current focus, right? Okay, we're going to dial back a bit more, right? Yeah, as you can see, the China side, what you see is quite an iceberg, tip of iceberg, right? Alibaba, ByteDance, and Tencent, right? You see DeepSeek, but what you don't see is Zhipu, Moonshot, Minimax, many others, Huawei, Capricorn, right? Chip making. What is not even showing here is the energy industry and the elements refining the infrastructure. 5G, 6G, right? It's a lot, right? So, yeah, we're going to leave it like that. So, if you look at it, right? So, NVIDIA, okay. 100 digital, right? GPU, powerful. The DeepSeek released MHC architecture, more visualized, manifold constrained hyper connection, right? That intelligent efficiency, architecture innovation, analog chips, right? It's very energy efficiency and efficient. The rare earth checkmate, right? Silver, restricted material, the power, right? It's it's a wall. What can you say, right? So whether you like it or not, right? Architectural innovation. Yeah, we're gonna dive more. We have the mobile hat, right? So yeah, in essence, China is tuning the high-end, whatever you call it, luxury AI into industrial consumable, right? It's the generation of that is 0.1 renminbi, right? The CUDA layer, they have harmless OS, MAN score. The hardware is an 10C, right? The model part, Zhipu, JLM, Queen, and DeepSeek, right? So industrialized creativity, right? high fidelity image generation for 0.1 RMB. Right? It's quite astonishing, right, to say that. The rise of the sovereign stack, right? You could build it. That's what enterprise agentic AI need, right? You really have to build economically sound, sustainable, secure, you can control, right? Then you can go repeat it, then it scale up, right? This have to take practical steps, right? There's a lot of things we need to look through, but I don't have all the time. Maybe we can come back another time. The era of sovereign systems, right? Fractal analysis of the leverage, right? The one-person company. A lot of people doing that, right? But again, we need to come together, not just one person struggling, right? Let's review a bit more, and then we call it a day, right? We can continue another time. I'm really tired today, right? So, but I don't anticipate that we have a lot of more time to enjoy, right? Maybe after a while, the remote people will just crash in, right? We cannot be so relaxed and just talk and share the thoughts, right? It's like the first hour, like you get up early, you go to office, right? That's this good an hour you have, right? Because after a little bit, everybody crash in, right? You have to say hello, good morning, go have coffee, meetings, Let's enjoy what we have right now, okay? It's not going to be too long, okay? The US had Germany in the embedded AI, cloud computing, the brain chips, right? Neuralink, etc., the different approaches, cloud computing, NVIDIA, Google, they figure an OpenAI, shift from generative chat to physical control. Okay, so look at it. Wow, the brain chips. Okay, right now it's still using that control word. It's okay, right? The body unmatched skill and resilience, right? Is on the China side, the durable tools, not fragile toys. Okay, there are money. The nervous system, the engineering bridging the gap between the code and flex structure simulation mind. Okay, a lot, right? The last centimeter sort of problem solving the dexterity manipulation. The challenge would be movement motor, right? The solution, Tsinghua University, they have a hand, $300, right? Think about it. Tactile resolution, millimeter, 0.02. Oh my God. The box test, the object identification via touch, bypassing visual occlusion, right? Oh, wow. Application of the medical surgery, precision assembly, fragile handling, right? Fantastic, right? Then the market pioneers, obviously, Tesla. We look at it, figure. Yesterday we look at it, Boston Dynamics and agility, right? Did it, right? There Unitree, there are BTech, Jiaopeng, and Yuan, right? And the hidden giants will be controlling the TCO, right? The joints, the hands, right? The nerves, what I'm building, the meridian systems, right? It's all pretty, you don't see that, the heart and soul, the brain, the body, right? And the whole stack, that's what I'm building, right? Again, I enjoy the time that nobody has discovered, not money, right? So, but once you become public, right, it's kind of hard to have a quiet moment. the compliance, localized, and safety, consciousness, firewall, human-centered deployment, okay, and the logistics, right, the service and the home care, right, okay, a lot more to do, right, heart and soul. Okay, so easier to build the body, the heart, second, the soul is way more difficult, way more challenging, right? How do you guarantee they don't add more risk than the soul? The problem is the soul, right? That's the hard question. Yeah, again, I want to leave you with the open mind, right? Yang Zhenyin, Mr. Yang died, right? I think very recently. It's one of the greatest, scientists ever lived, right? Maybe next, not too far to Einstein in this year, right? They used to be working together, I guess, right? Osmotic learning, right? The process of gradual unconscious assimilation of ideas, listening to colloquium, even if you don't understand the first time, that ferments in the background. It is okay to not understand everything immediately. That's where we're living in, right? So we're in a year we don't fully understand what AI and robotics could do or could damage, right? It's like ambient music in the background. It's very necessary. You don't have to understand everything immediately. Keep an open mind, okay? Let it seep in. Play with it, right? Embrace it. Have fun, okay? That's very important, right? But on the business side, you really have to think holistically. You cannot build a fortress, but build a foundation that it is secure and sustainable, right? You can scale up, right? Safe, right? I kind of in memory of this great mind, right? So, another lady, is a great scientist, recognized the fundamental importance of testing the law, right? And unintended convergence, right? Okay. In 1995, reunion with a mathematician, right? It was shocked. Okay, any case, right? They are all great people. Yeah, in memory of Mr. Yang, let's close. Right? Beautiful structure. Keep an open mind, right? That's what I keep saying. Right? Keep an open mind, right? If you will. You don't have to understand everything in first immediately, right? Keep an open mind, right? Okay, there's no perfection there. We got to close. It's already over an hour. Is there anything else we need to add to this session? Okay, kind of drag on all the time. Convergent future, right? See, it's kind of my intention, my venture, right? So I invite you to join, right? Look at this kind of two sides of the same thing, show and sell, right? The strategic bridge, strategic mode, right? Build brain and soul and heart, and body, the triangle, right? Obviously, and the figure that did it, and Apollo, the U.S. Vanguard, going to leverage, as well as the Unitrade, Agibot, and Fourier intelligence, right? We're all using them, building partnership, the anatomy of the autonomy, right? Eyes and skins and hands, right? Dexterity, right? The agentic revolution, the shape, the stack, Crow AI, autogen, line graph, markup, right? So the integration barrier, that's what we aim to. And the serving robotics, the self-implied, right? Absolute, you remember the foundation part, the drama, right? Absolute data security, bank and law, right? The problem is that data leakage, enterprise logic cannot be exposed to foreign hyperscalers, right? The solution is sovereign robotics. It's our solution: local processing, add native cognitive architecture, custom ontology, private LLMs, and business ontology, organic business data. You know, the macro brain and the macro heart. Okay, micro miners, right? Meridians. You know, and then macro doctor, banker, and the service logistics. Remember, it is consumer grade as well. We had to have fun, right? MaicroDoctor is a critical one, right? In China, obviously, a lot of applications there. And then the commercialization gap, right? The solution is comprehension simulation, right? The barrier, obviously, is, you know. And the ask, the investment, the return 100 times, Stack, OpenAI. And so, yeah, we have a lot to talk. It's just, you know, try to redefine the market for all of us, right? So, yeah, we're going to return to it, right? Okay. So, yeah, hopefully we finally able to turn into the design, the marketing of the MaicroDoctor part, right? There's a lot of literature. We need to review, right? We need to make those movies, right? But telling the business story, right? Introducing the technology, the product, right? What problem to solve, how it solved it, and simulate it, and actually, right? And make it a, you know, pro-human, right? AI applied robotics and the MaicroBotics paradigm, right? Strategic blueprint, right? You know, working with two legs, obviously, right? The strategic, you know, tale of two powers, right? Two superpowers: Japan, Europe, as well, Canada. The digital revolution, the workforce, and the sovereign robotics, the macro ontology, right? If you will. And the solution is that we localize processing to protect sovereign IP and cultural dialects, right? The application obviously is embedded sovereign AI agent, right, handling the fiduciary regulation without high-scalar harvesting, right? Local private LLM plus the business ontology, the organic one, MaicroBanker, MaicroLawyer, right, the sovereign closed loop, right? And yeah, so yeah, we look at these cases, right? How we back up, you know, our research, right? The doctor proceeding beyond biology, right? And the hand, you look at that. So the eyes, the skin, right? The hands, and the figure AI, robotics, you know, NASA. The Unitree, again, Agibot, okay. This is more like a go-to-the-market show and sell storefront, okay. Cinematic, right, ask for that, studio, right. Financial operational roadmap, and again, partnership, okay. Looking forward to work with you, right. So, yeah. We look at one of the classics, Liu Wensu, right? It's history of philosophy, right? The history of the medicine of the Song dynasty and Yuan, the Mongol era, right? For 97 years, right? In China, it was not merely accumulation of new prescriptions. It was a philosophical revolution, right? From the Han, the medicine, right, the structure, grid, the meridians, to the Song source ontology part, right? This ontology, okay, the body became you know, Yi Jing itself, right? Self-contained. Okay, medicine is the study of the Dao, right? Yeah. So, yeah. We could look at it in many different ways. This, again, it's another way, right? So you look at it has to be deeply rooted, right? He's an innovator, right? Liu Wensu, okay? some thinking for your food for thoughts, right? It's actually out of the classics, right? So, all right, hopefully we can march forward on the macro doctor design, right? The medicine, right? The forensic part, right? The history of the medicine, very young science, modern one, right? But there are deep roots in ancient Rome, for example, right? We have different epidemiology, the art of disease detection, right? And again, smallpox, influenza, right? Even the latest, right? It's a lot of lessons learned and failures, right? It's not easy. The swine flu, if you remember, HHS, a lot of hurdles we've been through. Frontier 1, the engine of life, surgery, pharmaceuticals, public health. And 2, the transplant revolution, stem cells came forward, right? And quality of life, mobility, right? Science, mental health, right? The power of prevention, right? Smoking, bike, helmets, right? Anything, the prevention, right? Horizon 20, the nanotechnology, genetics, cyber medicine, right? AI-enabled scientific research is going to crack a lot of standing on the shoulders of the giants. Sure, yeah, this is really what we are, and we need to stand on the shoulders of the giants, right? Okay, so let's call it a day. We'll continue tomorrow. Really, thank you. We just leverage the moment of early morning, if you will, right, before everybody crowd in, right? The channel becomes so crowded, right? Okay, thank you.
人生几何？譬如朝露去日苦。